Hello, friends. This is a very special episode because today I'm going to reveal something that has never been said before. And for that, we will have to go back to 3000 BC. That's 5000 years from now. So it's a long period. But in 3000 BC, in what is today Iraq and Syria, the battered places of those two regions, we had these two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. And between them was a civilization called the Mesopotamian civilization, or is also termed as the Sumerian civilization. The Sumerian civilization had something like half a dozen to a dozen cities, probably, and it had a population of something like 290,000 people, estimated. But it's a thriving civilization and is also considered by many to be a mother of a cradle of all civilizations. Be that as it may, we also had parallel to it at the same time the Indus Valley civilization, or the Sapta-Sindhu civilization, or the Indus-Saraswati civilization. Now, this was in the area of the Indian subcontinent, and the Indus Valley civilization, as per current estimates, had something like 2,000 cities. And these are like Harappa, Dholavira, Mohenjo-daro, and Rakhigadi, and many such cities. And it's estimated that they had a population of something like 5 million, which means about 50 lakhs. So when Mesopotamia had something like 300,000, that is 3 lakh population, the Indus Valley is considered to have had about 50 lakh population. And then it had the largest footprint because it was in the millions of square kilometers of area. And whilst they had 2 rivers, this place had 7 rivers, the Sapta-Sindhu. So this was a very, very vibrant civilization, brilliant one, advanced by all measurements as of today, very urban and very advanced and very high quality of life. Now what's happened is, but then the surprising matter is that the Indus Valley civilization didn't seem to have a script, or that's what the current archaeologists and historians believe. But how could such a thriving civilization not have had a script? So maybe that they had a script and they wrote it on cloth or on palm leaves or on bark or on leather or something like that, and all of which have perished. But on the Mesopotamian side, they around 2500 BC they came to start making clay tablets with a script. Those clay tablet script, there are about 500,000 of those have been found. Means 500,000 tablets have been found. The script has been deciphered, but not all the tablets have been translated yet, because it's a very specialized skill and few people are working on it very furiously, and only a part of it has been so far translated. So that, because they wrote it on clay tablets and they were available for posterity and they were found in the archaeological findings, a lot of information is coming out from there as to their way of life and what they did and etc. and their politics and all. But at that one, there is one very intriguing factor, that they seem to have had a very healthy and very vibrant trade relations with a sister civilization at that time, a parallel civilization to the east of their lands. And that civilization, they called them as the people of Meluha, and they called them the Meluhans. This Meluhans would have had to be part of the Indus Valley civilization. Now these Indus Valley people, if they were called Meluhans, what is become an enigma for all archaeologists and historians today is, how could it be Meluha? Because in the Indian context, they don't seem to find any such parallel. They didn't find the word Meluha something that can easily be interpreted or understood by them. It doesn't even seem to be a Sanskrit word or anything like that. So there's always a lot of debate going on, and one of these scholars like Asko Porpola, he comes from the whole Dravidian Aryan angle. So he says this must be a Tamil word, a Proto-Tamil word, which means Maleka. Maleka means high up the mountains. So maybe that's what. But then it's been rejected. It's not popularly accepted. But then there are multiple references to Meluha in the Akkadian records. Firstly, mostly it is about trade relations. The goods that they were bringing from the Indus Valley, including a lot of wood and then items and whatnot, and particularly for chariot making, furniture making and whatever. All these goods and items that they were bringing in from Meluha is all listed there, and the fact that the Meluhans brought it on their ships and that the Meluhans had their own enclaves within the same cities and all those kind of things is all mentioned. So there are these references, and the 3 kinds of references. One is all these trade references, and then there's another reference to the Meluhans having fought in a battle on the opposite side, It wasn't an engagement against the Meluhan kingdom. It's just that the Meluhan soldiers seem to have fought there. And then a third reference to a feast or celebration where they expected that the Meluhans will come down from their highlands and appreciate what they were doing there. These are the three tantalizing references that are there, apart from the numerous trade references for the Meluhans. But the big question is, who are the Meluhans? And why did they call them Meluhans? Because we can't find that in the Indian context, because in the Indus Valley you barely find anything from Mesopotamia in any case. So it looks like they did a lot of exports, but they didn't import much. Maybe they just brought gold and jewelry or whatever, gold and silver. So anyway, this whole thing has been going on, but the question is, what is Meluha and how do you link it to the Indian context? Now, sometimes the thing is staring at you in the face, but then you don't read it because of some pre-mindsets. That is why I have proposed this idea of Meluha actually being Malwa. Yes, Malwa. And Malwa is not something like a recent area or a territory that is from the Mughal times or something like that. Malwa is a very ancient kingdom, very ancient people. And it is mentioned in the Mahabharatas. And Malwa, originally, if you go back to their history, they're essentially Madras. Madras, there is the upper Madras and the lower Madras. That is the northern Madras and the lower Madras. The northern Madras went on to become the Medes, and the Medes went on to become the Mitannis. They migrated towards Syria, all those places, and later on even Armenia and all is populated by these Medes who went in from there. But then these Medes and the Madras, the other Madras remained in India, and the Madras are essentially known to be excellent horse people. They were known to be wonderful horsemen, horse training, charioteers, chariot makers, chariot riders, and all those kind of things. Those are the Madras. And these Madras, one of their most prominent kings was Ashwapati. Now mark the name Ashwapati. Again, he's Lord of Horses. Ashwapati had his kingdom, and as per the maps from where he was ruling, of ancient maps, his kingdom is exactly where Harappa is today. And Ashwapati had a wife called Malvi. Malvi and Ashwapati had numerous sons. The Puranas call it as 100 sons, means numerous sons. And the sons were called as Malvas. So later, after Ashwapati, when the sons were managing the kingdom, it came to be known as the Malva's kingdom. The same Ashwapati and Malvi, they also had a daughter. Her name is Savitri. You must be aware of Savitri and the Sati Savitri story of Satyavan and all that. So that is the Sati Savitri story, and it's the same. So these Malvas then went on to become the Malvas. And the Malvas were known to be excellent horse people. The very name Malwa itself means horse keepers, etc. All those things. Malvas, another Sanskrit interpretation is abode of wealth, Lakshmi, etc. And then you also know the legend of the Malvas coming from the word Malvi. And these people being excellent horse people is already referenced, because even in the Mahabharata, the Madra king, because you see Kunti and Madri's children were Nakul and Sahadev, and they were part of the Pandavas. So the Madra king Shalya, he was going to fight on the side of his nephews. But then he went across to Hastinapur, and along the way, it is mentioned that his army was fed by the Kauravas, and so he felt indebted, and then he fought on the side of the Kauravas against his own nephews. Now remember, the Mesopotamians also mentioned about the Meluhans being part of an army. So it seems like the Meluhans actually are mercenaries, because the Medes who went on to Armenia and all also known as mercenaries and great horsemen. Means they sell their warring skills to the highest bidder. So it's quite likely that King Shalya, by the time he reached Hastinapur, he was outbidded by the Kauravas, and then he went and joined the Kaurava army. But it is mentioned in a very subtle way that they became indebted because they were fed along the way. And the fact that these guys were great horsemen is also known from the fact that king, when Karna becomes the general for the army on the day of the battle, and he commanded the army, he requested King Shalya to be the charioteer. Again, why? Because he's a great chariot guy, great charioteer. And that's why. But then there are some differences in culture too, because those are mentioned in the Mahabharata, as they had some conflicts with the Puru culture, etc. It's very, very interesting. But then the Malwas are there by themselves. Now they were in that region, having lost in the Mahabharata war, they also migrated towards the south and kindly towards the east, bringing them to their current locations where they are, which is also the Malwa Plateau. So you see, the Malwa Plateau is again a highland. So maybe that is what the Mesopotamians meant when they were trying to talk of their coming down from their highlands. Or maybe the Malwas also had a reference to Mount Meru in part of their beliefs. Because Mount Meru, remember, is part of that mountain range along with the only other mountain range in the world, that's the Uralic Mountains, that was never underwater, never under any sea. All other mountain ranges have some time or the other been geologically under a water body, but not these two mountain ranges. And that is where they must be mentioning maybe it's Mount Tabu, we do not know, but that is what they probably mentioned. So this whole thing about the Malwas, they were known to be fantastic horsemen, they were known to be fantastic traders. Today they're also known to be great seamen, and also they're all known to be very good charioteers. And of course, the wood that they exported from there, the maize wood, is clearly shown in the Sumerian text as maize wood that they brought for chariot making, shipbuilding, etc. This is one of the best timbers in the world and is known as ironwood, and it is abundantly grown and only native to India. So that whole word, the Sanskrit links to that word, the fact that the Mesopotamians borrowed the name of that word, the fact that the Mesopotamians called these people Meluhas, and the Meluhas in Arabic are actually called as Malubas, and the Malubas are also nobody else apart from the Malwas. So Meluans are Malwans. Meluha is Malwa, because Melua is Malwa. So that is how, if we acknowledge that Malwa is probably one part of the Indus Valley civilization who extensively traded with the Mesopotamians, then it brings the Indus Valley civilization right at the Vedic civilizational fabric. So we have had a great session, friends. Hope you enjoyed. We will continue further and keep discovering more things. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Cheers.